What's going on, duelists? It's your boy Nick, bringing you today on the channel for the first time my 60 card Volcanic Snake Eye Fire King deck profile for the March 2024 format. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. My name is Nick. We do Yu-Gi-Oh content mainly focused around rogue and casual decks alike. If that's the kind of Yu-Gi-Oh that you're interested in, then I highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel. We are currently working our way to 1,500 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. We're as closer than we've ever been. We're literally only, I think, a few subs away, actually, not that many. And it would mean the world to me if we can get my channel to that goal. I've been working really hard, bringing you guys deck profiles week after week. And like I said, if you guys don't want to miss out on my future content, definitely smash that subscribe button, like the video, and comment down below on what you think. Now, Fire, in general, has been a deck that I think a lot of people are starting to kind of get sick of. It's getting a little bit stale. I know I've done a lot of Fire content lately. At the beginning of the month, I posted a pure Fire King Snake Eye deck list for the more competitive, subscribers on the channel. And last week, I posted a pure Volcanic deck profile, which was a lot of fun. But then a light bulb clicked in my head, and I had the crazy idea to combine both, or all three themes for that matter. I was like, what if I put the Volcanic stuff back in with the Snake Eyes and Fire Kings to just make a fire pile of sorts? Now, I'm going to be honest, I didn't expect much from this, and it was mainly just because I wanted to see what the deck could do. And boy, oh boy, was I absolutely surprised. I can't understate how powerful this deck is and how consistent it is. For it being a 60 card deck to function like this, it's absolutely mind-blowing to me. Not only can it do all the crazy Volcanic combos that lead to the FTK, but it also has the Snake Eyes and the Fire Kings to back it up, not only insulating your lines, but also giving you that board presence and that pressure to keep applying to your opponent turn after turn. So with the intro out of the way, we are diving headfirst into the 60 card deck list. Personally, I really do want to try taking this deck to locals just to see how it does, because I'm that blown away at how consistent and incredibly powerful this deck is. Like Fire, this is definitely the year of Fire, without a doubt. So with that being said, we are diving, like I said, straight into the monster lineup. You know how we do. Again, this is a 60 card deck list. So we're starting with the Volcanics. First things first. Volcanic Emperor. We are playing 2 copies of this card. This is the boss monster for the Volcanic theme. Very easy summoning condition. Can special itself from the hand or the graveyard by banishing 3 Pyro monsters. Or a Blaze Accelerator card from your face-up field or graveyard. In addition to that, when it is special summoned this way, you inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each banished Pyro monster that you currently have. And if you do, you can set a Volcanic trap directly from your deck. Very strong effect. Like, the fact this card is one of the easiest summoning conditions. It sounds difficult, but it really isn't once you learn how the combos work. Very easy to put this card on the board, burn your opponent. It's a 3100 beat stick. And if that wasn't crazy enough, as a continuous effect, every time your opponent special summons a monster, they take 500 damage, mandatory. So really crazy card at applying pressure. We definitely want to play 2 copies of this. 1, in my opinion, is not enough, but 3 would be too many. So 2, in my opinion, is just the perfect number for this card. Like I said, the best Volcanic card in the entire theme. Then we follow that up with the starter for the Volcanic theme, which is 3 copies of Volcanic Trooper. Generally going to be your normal summon for this deck. Upon normal or special summon, lets you add a Volcanic card from deck to your hand, so typical, archetypal searcher here. Then as a secondary effect, you can discard a card from your hand for cost. Any card, mind you. This deck has a ton of graveyard synergy, so there's tons of good discard outlets for this deck. And if you do, you can special summon a bomb token to your opponent's side of the field. Pyro, Fire, level 1, attack 1000, defense 1000. Again, you summon it to your opponent's board. And then if each time one is destroyed, its controller takes 500 damage. So this card is very underrated in my opinion. Seems very unassuming at first glance, but once you learn how the Volcanic combos actually work, this card is definitely the bread and butter for the entire theme. So definitely want to max out on a playset of Volcanic Trooper. Then we follow that up. Again, this wouldn't be a Volcanic deck without 3 copies of Volcanic Shell. Another unassuming card, very simple effect. Just while it's in the graveyard, pay 500 life points to add a copy of Volcanic Shell from deck to hand. These are all soft once per turns, so not only does this card serve as great discard fodder for any of the other engines you're playing in this deck, but also it increases the Pyro count in your graveyard to facilitate the summon of your Volcanic Emperor. This card basically does it all, and I wouldn't play any less than 3 in any Volcanic build you put together. The card is a mandatory 3 of in any Volcanic list. Then, personal preference. I know a lot of people won't choose to play this, but since this is a 60 card, I figured I had the space, so why not? We are maxing out on a playset of Volcanic Scattershot, one of the goofiest looking cards in my opinion, but oh, such a classic. When it's sent to the graveyard, mandatory effect, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Then if it's sent to the graveyard by the effect of a Blaze Accelerator card specifically, you can send 2 additional Volcanic Scattershots from your hand or deck to grave to destroy all monsters your opponent controls, and then each individual Scattershot you send will burn for an additional 500 apiece, which in total would be 1500 burn damage plus a Raigeki-like effect, which is very strong. In addition to that, the 500 burn when it's sent to grave triggers whenever it's sent to grave by any means, so very easy to establish that, especially using this card as a discard fodder. Just chipping away at your opponent's life points, you know, keeping them off of their game plan is very strong. In addition to that, that 500 burn is not once per turn, so there's combos that allow you to loop scatter shots, giving you multiple burn effects off of a single copy, which is very hilarious in my opinion. So 3 copies of Volcanic Scattershot. Then moving on with the rest of the Volcanic cards, we do play 2 copies of Rimfire, followed by 1 copy of Rocket. 2 Rimfire is the perfect ratio, 3 is too many, 1 is not enough. Rimfire is great at not only being a foolish burial for your Volcanic monsters, generally want to be dumping Emperor off of his effect, but his secondary effect, you can use each effect in the same turn. The only caveat is that the trigger is that he needs to be sent to grave. So as long as you can figure out how to send 2 copies of this to grave in the same turn, you can actually utilize both effects, which is really, really cool. Like I said, the first effect being a foolish for any Volcanic by banishing himself from grave, and then the secondary effect allows you to banish a Blaze Accelerator card from your face-up field or graveyard, and if you do, you can place a Blaze Accelerator continuous spell trap from your hand or deck face-up onto your field. Now this is relevant, the way that's worded, for one of the newer Blaze Accelerator cards we're playing, which we'll talk about once we get to the spells. That card has a activation condition, which Rimfire's second effect actually bypasses completely, which is really cool. And then we do play the 1 copy of Rocket. Rocket, upon being summoned, whether it's normal, special, or even flip summoned, he lets you add a Blaze Accelerator card from your deck or grave to your hand, so definitely just a consistency booster here. And that rounds out the Volcanic monsters at least. Now jumping into the Snake Eye monsters, of which we only play 1 of everything. I know that we are on the cusp of a ban list probably. The OCG just got their list and the TCG is probably not far behind, but realistically, I don't foresee Konami outright banning any of these cards. They still have, you know, sets to sell in the future, and they definitely want to capitalize on reprints. So we're only playing 1 of the entire Snake Eye lineup, which is why I said I don't think this deck is going to be hindered by the ban list all that much, because we're already just playing 1 of everything. So even if they limit cards like Ash or Flamberge, it doesn't affect this particular build in the slightest. So we're playing 1 of every Snake Eye monster, minus the Birch, which we just choose not to run. But we have, you know, 1 Ash, 1 Oak, 1 Poplar, followed by 1 Flamberge. This 4-card package is more than enough in my opinion. These cards are all straight gas. Snake Eye Ash being a 1-card combo by itself. Now, these are all 1-ofs because, again, you don't want to be normal summoning these cards, even though you can. Obviously, your normal summoning is usually going to go towards the Volcanic Trooper, but these cards, they're all level 1 fire, so you can get them off of the original Sinful Spoils, which is obviously searchable through the Diabell package or the Poplar himself. So we just play all the Snake Eye cards as 1-ofs. Definitely amazing cards for not only recursion, but board presence, and just keeping a ton of pressure on your opponent. Flamberge by himself is a house to deal with, like just being able to bounce cards to the back row, as well as you know, special summoning monsters from the spell trap zone during the opponent's turn as a quick effect. In addition to that, if he's sent from the hand or field to grave, allowing you to revive 2 level 1 fires from grave is huge, especially when you consider that he can also revive Volcanics. It doesn't say he has to revive Snake Eye monsters with his graveyard effect, which is really cool. So just 1-ofs of each of all these Snake Eye monsters. Ash giving you advantage from deck, Oak giving you advantage from graveyard or banished, and then Poplar just being a free extender of sorts, as well as a consistency booster, allowing you to search for these Snake Eye spells and traps, which is really nice. Then we move on to the Fire King package, again, of which we're for the most part all playing 1-ofs. So even if these cards do get hit, obviously with the exception of High Avatar Kirin is a 2-of. Even if these cards do get hit, I don't foresee that affecting the deck all that much. In the OCG, they put High Avatar Kirin to 2, so even if the TCG ban list mirrors that, we're only playing 2 Kirin already anyway, so it really doesn't affect us. But this is the Fire King package: 1 Ponix, 1 Fire King Avatar Kirin, followed by 2 High Avatar Kirin, and then 1 Sacred Fire King Garunix. Very minimal package. Like I said, for all intents and purposes, this is a Volcanic deck. You are really only running the Snake Eyes and the Fire Kings in a very small amounts, just to add consistency and help shore up some of the weaknesses that Volcanic suffer from. So like, don't mistake this for being a Fire King or a Snake Eye deck. It's really just using those cards as an engine. It's really, at heart, mainly a Volcanic list. It just happens to be 60 cards, so it has the space to accommodate all these other packages. So obviously you guys should already know what all these cards do, with the exception of Fire King Avatar Kirin, the Baby Kirin as it's often called. A lot of you probably don't know what this card does. Basically, if it is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you get to send a fire monster from your deck to grave. So this is a generic Foolish Burial for any fire monster. Doesn't have to be a Fire King, just any fire. So you could dump Snake Eyes with this, you could dump Volcanics with this. It helps bridge the engines together in such a way that makes this worth running. And then obviously we just played 2 Kirin. I don't think 3 is worth it at this point. I think you can get away with just 2, but it definitely makes... I feel like 1 would be too little in my opinion, although you probably could get away with playing 1, but I think Kirin is still an amazing card, so I feel like a 2-of slot is perfect. And then the Sacred Fire King Garunix just being a recurable resource, also allowing you to destroy Fire Beast, Beast Warrior, Wing Beast from the deck, hand, or the field is huge, just enabling all these cards, and you just go so plus with this particular deck, it's really not even funny. These cards are just free advantage all across the board. Up next, we do play 2 copies of Dia Bellstar the Black Witch. Now again, this is, you know, pre-TCG ban list. We don't know what the TCG ban list at this time will look like. If they do decide to go after the Wanted package, for example, and mirror what they did in the OCG, putting Wanted to 1, then I will be increasing the Dia Bell to a 3-of. As of right now, in testing, because I am playing 3 Wanted, spoiler alert, we'll talk about more of that when we get to the spells, but I am on 3 Wanted. I felt that 2 Dia Bell is perfect for this deck. I mean, can you play 3? Absolutely. And if Wanted goes to 1, then you'll basically have to play 3. But since we still, at least at the time of recording, we still have 3 Wanted legal in TCG, I think only 2 Dia Bell is more than enough. Sometimes playing the 3rd can get bricky, although I do like the Dia Bell for being a discard outlet, especially since a lot of the Volcanic stuff wants to be in grave anyway. Being able to pitch a card from hand, a special Dia Bell, and pitching like a Volcanic Shell, for example, just free advantage all the way around. Like, what's crazy about this deck is the costs aren't even costs half the time, because you're generating free pluses, you know, later through your combo, which is huge. So 2 Dia Bellstar the Black Witch for now. Again, this ratio is subject to change, contingent on what a TCG ban list looks like if 1 does end up dropping. And then moving on, we do play a Horus package in this deck, consisting of 3 Imseti, 1 Happy, and 1 Duomatef. We do not play the Cubenicef. I just feel like that card is a brick. Granted, Happy and Duomatef are also bricks, but this is a 60 card list, and they're just 1-ofs, so we don't really come across them that often. But, you know, you definitely want to get access to Imseti and or King Sarcophagus, and this just enables the Horus lineup. Obviously, Horus is another great discard outlet, and since Volcanics just have a ton of graveyard synergy to begin with, the packages just meld so nicely. Also, Imseti and something I forgot to mention, Dia Bellstar, being spellcasters, does come up for a particular card we choose to main deck, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But again, just more hidden synergy across the board. This deck just flows extremely well together, so definitely this is the Horus package we're running. Again, you don't have to play, like I noticed some lists do play 3 Imseti and 1 Happy. The Duomatef is a flex, but again, I found that playing like these 3 Horus monsters enables your Volcanic Shell lines because you play 3 Shell. So if you do the combo correctly, you can actually get all 3 Shells in grave while also enabling all 3 Horus monsters, which is pretty cool. Again, personal preference though, you don't have to play the Duomatef if you don't want. But in testing, it's been working out perfectly fine for me. So up next, again, we do play 1 copy of Awakening of the Possessed, Greater Inari Fire. This card is really strong, especially since you play so many spellcasters in the main deck already, with Dia Bell and the Imseti being spellcaster monsters. This card can special itself from the hand or the deck on a non-activated effect, and all you have to do is send a spellcaster monster you control and a level 4 or lower fire you control to grave to special this card. When it is summoned this way, you can inflict damage to your opponents equal to the attack of a monster they control. Does not target for that, so even if they chain something in response to like clear a body off the board, for example, as long as they still at least have 1 monster on their field, you can burn them for that attack value, which is really strong. Then when this card is sent from field to grave, he allows you to search for a Spiritual Fire Art card, of which we play 1 target for that, and we'll talk about that when we get to the traps. But overall, really insane card, helps the Volcanics with their FTK line. Very, very strong card in my opinion. And like I said, because it's just a 1-of and it's a 60 card deck, we rarely draw it, so it never hinders our lines whatsoever. And then we do play 1 Magician Souls. This is a little bit of a flex. We only play this to enable the Dia Bellstar line, because you can pitch the Dia Bellstar from deck for cost, because she's a level 6 or higher spellcaster, to then special the Magician Souls from your hand. So it's just free synergy there. And then since we do have a lot of back row, and a lot of the Snake Eye stuff tends to put itself in back row for free, we can use souls to send those cards to grave to get free draws. It, you know, helping us extend further. Again, just having free bodies and free resources is always great. So the 1 souls, although it is not required in my opinion, I think you could get away with cutting this and playing something else. But again, in testing, it hasn't hindered me at all whatsoever. And then for the last monsters, we play 35 monsters in the main board. Is 3 copies of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. Very interesting hand trap, this format. Not only does it function like a Veiler, but also if that monster that you negate with this card leaves the field that turn, the opponent takes damage equal to its attack. So it plays really nicely into what the Volcanics want to do with their burn setups. So this is the only hand trap we play in this deck. But like I said, this deck is so good at breaking boards that even if you go second, you can let your opponent full combo, and this deck will have no problem breaking through it like it's nothing. It's really insane. So we don't really need to play that much non-engine in this deck, to be quite honest. Now moving on to the spells, we do play 1 Fire King Island, 1 Sanctuary, and 1 Circle of the Fire Kings. These are the targets we can search off of Ponix, allowing us to search for Fire King spells and traps. Obviously, you know, Sanctuary gets us Island, and then Island helps us extend into the line even further by popping a monster in our hand and then searching a Fire King card, which will generally be Garunix, and then that triggers a whole nother slew of combos by itself. And then we do play the Circle of the Fire Kings, just being a really cool card to reborn some of your fires, while also destroying some stuff on the board and enabling certain cards, you know, like Garunix Engrave, and also enabling certain other plays like the some of the Link monsters, which we'll talk about. But again, Circle of the Fire King's not required, but again, this is a 60 card list, so I'm comfortable running this as a one of, just to have an additional target for Ponix to search, especially in those grind games. Really, really cool. Then moving on, we do play 3 copies of the Volcanic Blaze Accelerator, and then 1 copy of the original Blaze Accelerator, given that in order to activate Volcanic Blaze from the hand, you have to send a original Blaze Accelerator from your hand, face-up field, or deck to grave as cost. This circles back to what I talked about with Volcanic Rimfire. Rimfire's secondary graveyard effect allows you to place a Volcanic Blaze Accelerator from your deck or hand onto your field, completely bypassing the fact that you need to, you know, send a Blaze to the graveyard. So, like, once you activate 1 copy of this, you'll dump the Blaze, so this is pretty much a Garnet. And then on subsequent turns, when you want to activate other copies of this card, you can just use Rimfire's effect to do it, which is obviously really strong. But Volcanic Blaze is insane. You can only control 1 of it though. However, all of its effects are all soft once per turns. So it's once per turn per copy of this card. The first effect allows you to special a Volcanic monster from your hand. And then the secondary effect allows you to target a monster, face-up monster the opponent controls, send 1 level 1 Pyro from your deck to grave, and if you do, you destroy that monster. So this card is really, really strong at breaking boards. And remember, like I said, it's a soft once per turn for all of its effects. So I can, like, activate 1 copy of this, special Volcanic from hand, Foolish a level 1 Pyro to pop a monster. Then on the same turn, if I can get access to another one, I can do it again, getting another free special and another free pop, while also Foolish Burialing stuff that I want in grave anyway. So really cool cards here. I really do like these Volcanic Blaze Accelerators. They're very good card design. Then we do play 3 Bonfire. Bonfire giving you access not only to your Volcanics, but your Snake Eye package as well. Just a great card all around. It's just unfortunate that the card is as expensive as it is. Then we follow that up with 3 copies of Wanted, Seeker of Sinful Spoils. Again, our ratio right now is 3 Wanted, 2 Diabel. However, if the TCG ban list drops, you know, within the next couple weeks, and they do decide to hit Wanted in some capacity, like I already mentioned, we can increase the copies of Diabel from the 2 of that she currently is to a 3 of potentially. It really just depends on which way TCG Konami decides to go with the list. So as of right now, you know, at the time of recording, Wanted is still legal, so we're obviously going to play 3 of it. There's no reason not to. Just an insane consistency card for this deck. Then obviously we play the 1 Original Sinful Spoils, followed by the 1 Divine Temple of the Snake Eye. Original Sinful Spoils is such a great bridge to all these archetypes, allowing you to just special level 1 fires from deck generically. That gives you access to Volcanics, that gives you access to Fire Kings or Snake Eyes, whatever you need at any given moment. This card is really, really powerful. And then obviously the Divine Temple is really good at also helping us push through Disruption, playing through cards like Nibiru as well. Upon activation, it lets you place a Snake Eye monster from your hand, your deck, or your graveyard face up in your spell trap zone as a continuous spell. Then if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you can target a monster card in your spell trap zone, treat it as a continuous spell, and special summon it. So this card giving you recursion, also the ability to play through disruption is really nice as well. So 1 and 1 is all you need. Then for our King Sarcophagus lineup, again, going back to the Horus package, we have 3 Imseti, 1 Happy, 1 Dumatef. We only played the 2 copies of King Sark. You could play 3, but personally, I just don't feel like it's required. You definitely don't want to brick on too many copies. I think once you get access to the 1, the second one is just there for insurance reasons. In case one does get outed, you have a backup copy. But I don't think playing 3 is required in this list whatsoever. So just 2 King Sarcophagus is more than enough. Again, serves as a great discard fodder for the Horus package. And then just gives you free bodies on board while you control it. You're able to special Imseti, Happy, and Dumatef, and just give yourself free level 8 bodies to do whatever you desire with. Then we round that out with 2 copies of Fire Ejection and 2 copies of Fire Recovery. 2 very interesting cards that I think a lot of people don't really talk much about. Fire Ejection is basically a glorified Foolish Burial for the deck. And then when you send a Volcanic specifically off of it, it allows you to either burn your opponent equal to its level times 100 or special summon a bomb token to their field. Keep in mind, this is the same kind of token that a Volcanic Trooper can produce with a secondary effect, and note that if that token is destroyed, its controller takes 500 damage. So really cool card here, doubling as a Foolish and either a burn card for time or putting them a token on their board, which can also mess up their plays. And then Fire Recovery is basically just what it sounds like. I just love the artwork of this card, featuring the scatter shots in it. It's just really cool in my opinion, but this allows you to target a fire in your graveyard, send a card from your hand to grave to then special summon that target from your grave, so it's pretty much a reborn. However, the real benefit of this card comes from the graveyard effect. You can banish it from grave to then target 3, or up to 3, no, it's target 3, excuse me, of your fire monsters that are banished and or in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw 1 card. So this recycles your shells, recycles your scatter shots, or anything for that matter. I mean, if there's cards that are banished you want to recur, this Fire Recovery can get it for you while also giving you a draw in the process. 2 very strong fire support cards in my opinion. Then to round out the last spell, 1 copy of 1 for 1. Again, we play a ton of level 1s in this deck, so 1 for 1 almost functions like a secondary copy of the original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye. So very great card here. Also, this can also get us access into our Magician Souls if we needed it for whatever reason, so just something to note there. And then to round out the remaining 3 cards, which are traps, we do play 1 Blaze Accelerator Reload in this deck. Very great with the Horus package. Also searchable since we do play the copy of Rocket. Note that Trooper cannot search this because Trooper only searches Volcanic cards. Blaze Accelerator Reload does not have Volcanic in the name. But Rocket can, because Rocket specifically searches Blaze Accelerators of any kind, which is really cool. Then we play 1 Volcanic Emission. This is the trap that we're usually setting off Emperor's effect. And then we round that out with the 1 Spiritual Fire Art, which is what our Greater Inari Fire lets us add to our hand from the deck when it's sent to the graveyard. This is just another card to help for the Volcanic FTK combo. All these cards are really, really strong, but 1 ofs is more than enough for all of them. And then, like I said, this rounds out the 60 card Volcanic Snake Eye Fire King deck list. Very amazing deck. Like I said, I can't wait to take this to locals and see how it performs. But now we're going to be moving on to the extra deck, of which we're playing a few rank 8s for the Horus package. Plus, keep in mind that Emperor, Flamberge, and Garunix, and the Big Kieran are also all level 8, so it's pretty easy to make rank 8s in this deck, to be honest. So we do play the 1 Zombie Vampire, which is just an insane extender, and then we also play the 1 Garunix Eternity Hyang of the Fire Kings, another really amazing Pyro rank 8. Just if we're going second, this is just amazing at breaking boards, and then if we're going first, Zombie Vampire just helps us extend and keep pushing and putting pressure on the opponent. So 2 great rank 8 monsters. Then we follow that up with a ton of links. Obviously 1 Anima and 1 Link Rebo for Link 1s of choice, 2 very powerful Link 1s. Note that Anima is also a spellcaster, so we can use it as material for the Greater Inari Fire line if we so choose. Not much else to explain there. Then for our Link 2s, we're on 1 IP Masquerena, 1 SP Little Knight, 1 Sunlight Wolf, 1 Hida, 1 Dark, the Dark Charmer, and then we're also playing 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix for our Link 2s of choice. All of these cards are heavily played in the meta and even in casual, so you should all know what these do. IP into SP is obviously pretty common. Sunlight Wolf just giving you free graveyard recursion for fires. Hida and Dark, again, being reborns from your opponent's graveyard to your field, helping you link climb. And then Phoenix just being generic spell trap removal. Also, really cool that Phoenix happens to be a fire as well. Definitely some cool synergy there that he can pull off with this particular deck. So that rounds out all of our Link 2s. Then for our Link 3s, we're just on 2 copies of Promethean Princess. Custom card, non-target reborn from the grave of any fire. And then in the graveyard, she's also a disruption. Whenever the opponent would special, she can target a fire we control and a monster they control, destroy them both to then special herself. Really insane card. I could definitely see this winding up in the ban list at some point in the future. And then for our Link 4s, we're on 1 Ambler Whale, 1 Zelantis, followed by 1 Raging Phoenix for the OTK line. Because if FTKing your opponent wasn't enough, then we can also OTK them as well, which is just really, really crazy. So that rounds out the extra deck for the 60-card Volcanic Snake Eye Fire King list. Now we're going to be jumping into the side deck for this deck, which is really, really fun in my opinion. We sideboard a playset of Ash Blossoms just for those matchups that it really counts against. Keep in mind we only main deck 1 hand trap, which is the Ghost Mourner. But if we need to side into another hand trap, Ash is there in our sideboard for that particular purpose. Then we also play 2 copies of Phantasme, given that we're in fire format. All these fire decks love link summoning, so we can definitely use Phantasme to our ability here. Then we also play 1 Divine Incarnate in the side, simply because Snake Eye Ash can search it, and this is great for breaking boards when going second. Then we also play 3 copies of Talents in the side. Again, whether we go first or second, this is just a generic card to side into to punish our opponent for trying to hand trap our plays. Then we also sideboard 1 Fire King Skyburn and 1 copy of Sinful Spoils of Subversion Snake Eye. Again, more going second stuff. This is searchable off Ponix, this being searchable off of Poplar or the Diabelle herself. Very good at board breaking here. Then if we're going first, really cool tech card we're playing is 3 copies of Gravedigger's Trap Hole. Not only can this negate monster effects that activate in the hand, grave, or banished, but it also burns the opponent for 2,000 damage, and it's not once per turn. Definitely a great card to side into when you know you're going first, just achieving, even more burn, just, giving all the Volcanics all the fuel they need to finish out the game. And then for the last card in the sideboard is 1 copy of Volcanic Inferno. This is another Volcanic trap that Emperor can set from the deck off of his own effect. However, we choose to sideboard this because going second, this card doesn't do much for us. It's really better suited for going first. Like I said, if we're going second, Inferno is more of a brick in my opinion. So that rounds out the sideboard. But like I said, this is my 60-card Snake Eye Volcanic Snake Eye Fire King deck list. If you guys want to see combos and test hands with this particular list, let me know down in the comments below. I definitely have no problem uploading combos and test hands for you guys, showcasing the raw power this 60-card variant has. It is extremely consistent, and it is a ton of fun to play. I mean, I don't even care if it's the most competitive deck. I mean, that's not really what my channel prides itself on. But the fact that this deck is just so much fun, and just, it's so awesome. Like, honestly, it almost seems like it never runs out of gas. I mean, no pun intended. It's always on fire. Like, just honestly, it does so much with so little, and I couldn't be happier with it. So, like I said, guys, comment down below. If you definitely want to see combos and test hands, I have no problem uploading that for you guys. But with that being said, this is Nick. I'm going to be hitting that end phase. And one last thing before we wrap up the video, keep in mind, this is pre-TCG ban list. Obviously, we know we're expecting a ban list in the near future because the OCG just got theirs, so the TCG shouldn't be too far behind. I don't think if they're really going to go after fire as hard as they did in the OCG, or maybe they will. But either way, they're certainly not hitting any Volcanic cards on the list. Really, the only suspects that should be worried are like the Snake Eye cards and maybe some of the Fire King cards, but realistically, we're playing one-ofs of all these cards anyway. So even if all these cards go to 1, it's not even a problem for this particular list. The only thing that I could see being an issue is Wanted, but like I said, I already have a contingency for that. If it does get limited, we just play the 3rd Diabelle, and then we have an extra flex spot that we could just shoehorn whatever we want in. But either way, that's going to wrap up the video, guys. Like I said, this is Nick hitting that end phase. Like and subscribe. Peace.